What's up, family? Welcome back to the Reclamation. Here we are, week 3. It's been pretty cool so far. I've gotten a lot of feedback. It's really nice to hear that some people have some things that resonate to them, and that makes it worthwhile. So this series, I'm actually going to kick off a full series. I decided to try and make it into something that weekly follows along with a topic or a project. The one-offs, they're going to come and go, but right now I thought when I was sitting down writing these episodes that more ideas kept coming as I was going, and they just transitioned to each other, and it just got to be way too long. So I decided to break up these next thoughts into a series. So there's going to be 4. This is episode 1. The series I'm calling the Rewire to Rise campaign. There's going to be 4 episodes. This first one I've titled, Why You're Not Broken, You're Programmed. It's something that I understand pretty well. It may or may not resonate with you. But I hope that if you could take away at least one thing by the end of the episode, then it was worth it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. To start, I want to front load this by saying, if you're out there and you're dealing with some things, you should understand that you're not broken in any way, shape, or form. There is a chance, though, that you've been programmed, and there are ways to get rid of that programming, change up your thought process and how things work, and once you're able to embrace that, everything changes. Over the next few episodes, I'm going to go through what I did personally to help with my reprogramming, and I hope it resonates. So the first one, kind of going through some ideas that I had. You weren't born doubting yourself. You weren't born afraid to ask for more. You weren't born hustling for love, success, or survival. But somewhere along the way, you got reprogrammed. Whether it's by parents that were surviving, maybe they weren't thriving, by systems that taught you to obey, not necessarily to believe. By just pain that convinced you that it was safer to just play small in what you were doing. That was programming in its simplest form. And what that does, it becomes your inner script. For me, it turned into I always messed up. I couldn't do anything right. One of the other things is I'm not built for this. I just can't do it. It's not in me. I'm not wired that way. One of the biggest ones as I got older and got into, the professional world was, I'll never be successful like them. I surround myself with all these people, and it's not for me. I can't be like them. I'm not made like them. But that was something that I was programmed with. Not necessarily at the fault of other people, but there were influences in that. But then, when you start to think about it, those beliefs, they're not real, and they're not necessarily, they don't have to be yours, I guess is kind of the point that I'm going with. Sometimes it turned out to be other people's fears that were passed down to us. And they didn't know any better. Whether it was a family member, a friend, they had no idea, and hopefully if they did, that they understood, what was happening could, take a toll later on. So I think what I want to go through is kind of the techniques that I learned, probably over the past year and a half, that helped me try to, figure out what was going on and how I could make a difference. How could I change things? And they're pretty easy actually. So the first one, the first step is awareness. Making sure you know what's up to begin with. So what you can do tonight, or whenever you get a chance, you can try to write down one thought that you had today that felt small. Maybe it was, I'm not ready, or I can't do this. When I step back and ask myself that before a race, I have to come back and really be aware of, ask yourself, whose voice is this? When you say I can't do this, or I'm not ready, whose voice is that? Is that yours? Or is it something that you've been programmed with? When you turn around and ask it, that's called, pattern interruption. And it gives you the opportunity to become aware of it and change it up on the spot. Because the moment that you're able to question what that thought is, that's when you're no longer controlled by it. You just took your power back by doing that. The second one, and this is something that you can do not necessarily the same day, just any time that it comes up, is you can ask yourself, if I was already healed and whole, how would I show up today? If things were perfect, if I was in control, A game, what would I do? How would I show up when it comes to the scenario that I'm going into? It's a simple question, but it has the opportunity to shift your identity completely. What it did for me, that it helped me to align with my future self, not just my past programming. So when you're doing that, you're starting to put, your eyes further in the distance, which is healthy. You get to live from that version of you, even if it's just for a day. You start rewiring your reality. So that's something pretty cool that I did. I do this from time to time, not every day, but it's fun to think about, not only if I was healed and whole, but if I was financially completely to the point where I wanted to be in life, how would I show up today? And that's something that it's kind of fun for me, at least, because you start to get to think about, well, am I playing that expensive guitar, or am I riding that newest Harley? But how am I going to act today without those concerns or those problems with myself? So the third technique, this is something that more when you see there's different patterns that are creeping in that come up. It's they call these the 3 R's: the reclaim, replace, and reinforce. So reclaiming the thought, you just go, if something comes up and you just got to answer to it, you just identify and say, this thought isn't mine. It was given to me, and I release it. Simple as that. The next one, where you replace it, you say, I'm allowed to be new at this. I'm learning, I'm growing. This specifically came in for me recently with my new position at work. I thought that I had to be the best ever walking into it, because I came from leadership and became an individual contributor. But I had to replace that thought. The last one is, you reinforce it. So you say it, you feel it, you write it down, and you do it daily until, you catch those patterns as they come up. So, I used to think I was lazy. I always thought that I was going to be stuck. But the truth was, I was just living out parts of other people's stories. I'm not here to bash anybody or complain about my past. I had a pretty normal childhood, and I'm here today because of how I was raised and the people that I was raised with. I still talk to a lot of them. But once I realized that there is part of me that's programmed in different areas, I was able to really start to rewrite the ending, rewrite the storyline. And that's something that's pretty neat. So, I hope some of these helped you out a little. Like I said, this is the first of the series that we're going through. If it hit home, drop a comment, leave the word Rewire If you do, at the end of the series, I'm actually going to have a mini book that I'm working on right now to go along with it. It'll be free, but just let me know that you're interested in having it. I'll make sure that you get it. You know, the next episode, I'm gonna break down one of the sneakiest beliefs that kept me from playing small for years. So I think you might want to hear it when it comes up. So, like I say, love strong, do hard things, and embrace your gifts. I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.